Hey, friends! Summertime is upon us, and that means a trip to the beach. And that also means that some people will try drowning for fun. So they need someone to help them out, which is what this movie, which came out 50 years ago this very month, touches on. So this time we're talking about Lifeguard from 1976. Our story goes like this. Rick is a lifeguard, and the beach is all he and his mustache have ever known. Right out of high school, he started lifeguarding. Now he's 30 years old and still hanging out at the beach, and Rick is content. He's still quite fit, and there are lots of young, sexy, willing chicks to make out with. But then he gets an invite to his high school reunion, and this is forcing him to rethink his life. One former classmate runs into him at the beach and offers him a job at the Porsche dealership he works for. There's a lot of money in it, he says, and it's a real job. His stewardess girlfriend wants more, wants love, not just sexy makeouts. And this is something Rick never considered before. He has a new mentee, a young guy just filling in on weekends, and he has to train this new lifeguard who isn't going to take it up as a full-time profession. But Rick is the older man. His parents don't understand either. His brother just got a fancy new job with lots of money, but Rick is still at the beach. There's a young kid and his friends at the beach. He's named Machine Gun. And Rick sees something of himself in the kid, the girl-crazy wannabe stud, too young to get anywhere with the girls. And then there's Wendy, a starry-eyed teenager who gets the horns for Rick. She's kind of yesterday for Rick in a way, which he wants to hang on to. And then there's the reunion itself, where no one believes he's still hanging out at the beach when everyone else has grown up and moved on. They all think he's wasting his time. At the reunion, he meets his former high school crush, Kathy, and they hook up again. She's newly divorced with a kid. Rick likes the kid and the kid likes Rick, but Kathy works at a high-end art gallery and Rick, he doesn't live in that world. Rick has some big decisions to make, both for himself as well as his mustache. In our cast, we have Same Elliott, of course. Rick is easily one of his best characters, not wanting to face the future, the inevitable. He can't do this job forever. He'll eventually age out of it. His frustration at not being taken seriously is so well played. I mean, he's a guy who saves lives, for crying out loud. And everyone seems to think he's just wasting his time, wasting his life. Grow up already and get a real job, they say. And we see why he stays. He explains why he loves doing what he does. It's a great turn by Elliott, and nicely scripted, too. Parker Stevenson from the Hardy Boys is here. I always liked him. His character is learning the ropes. It's a temp gig for the summer. He's a college kid headed for success in some other field, but he does take the job seriously. And in Rick, he finds a good mentor. He's our Dr. McCoy character, the one asking the questions which inform the audience of why things are done the way they're done. If you think about it, that's what McCoy did a lot of the time. The answers Kirk and Spock give to McCoy's questions told us, the audience, why they couldn't just do this or that to save the day. Kathleen Quinlan plays the starry-eyed Wendy, and you totally buy her performance here. She got her start in American Graffiti, did some TV, then, after this picture, she appeared in Airport 77, I Never Promised You a Rose Garden, the Twilight Zone movie, The Doors, Apollo 13, and a bunch of other stuff. Ann Archer plays the ex from high school, Kathy, and I liked her too. She was in Fatal Attraction, Patriot Games, Narrow Margin, Leap of Faith, just tons of stuff. We last saw her in my review of Raise the Titanic. Stephen Young plays Rick's friend Larry, the Porsche salesman. A very familiar face. He was in Soylent Green, Patton, Who is Harry Crumb, and The President's Analyst. Machine Gun was played by Steve Burns. He didn't do too much aside from Lifeguard, but he does pop up in Centennial and an episode of The Incredible Hulk. Burns is a standout character and used just judiciously enough so his shtick doesn't get old. So like most people who remember watching this one, I liked Machine Gun. Beatrice Colin appears as a former classmate at the reunion. She was in High Anxiety, the 1980 version of Brave New World, and Who's That Girl? But you may know her best from her two regular roles she had on TV. Marcia, a waitress on Happy Days, and as Etta Candy on Wonder Woman. Rick's stewardess girlfriend was played by Sharon Weber, also known as Sharon Clark. Aside from her scenes in Lifeguard, her biggest claim to fame was being the Playmate of the Month in 1971. And here you can see why. In a brief scene, Rick has to deal with a voyeur in the ladies' bathroom, and he was played by longtime character actor Russ Martin. You never even really see his face. Martin was in lots of stuff. Slaughter's Big Ripoff, Get Christy Love, Mommy Dearest, The Sword and the Sorcerer, and lots of TV. Lenka Peterson plays Rick's mom. She worked steadily in TV, but she also appeared in Panic in the Streets, The Werewolf of Washington, and the 1987 version of Dragnet. But for me, far and away the most pleasant surprise here was seeing George D. Wallace. He was in tons and tons of things starting from 1950. Like everything from Forbidden Planet to Minority Report, The Towering Inferno, Postcards from the Edge, the pilot for The $6 Million Man, he's in that, and lots of other stuff. But I know him best from a movie serial called Radar Men from the Moon, where he played inventor Commando Cody, one of the original Rocket Men, who in that serial battled against the evil Moon Men trying to invade the Earth. Lifeguard is such a curious picture. From the occupation the main character has, one we don't see that much in the pre-Baywatch era, to the tone the film sets, the feeling of inevitability, almost doom that this character has to face. He has to grow up, or maybe he already has, and no one, including himself, realizes it. Very unusual. The director of Lifeguard was Daniel Petrie, and we've talked about his work before. He directed one of my favorite old-school TV movies, Silent Night, Lonely Night, which I reviewed way back in our first year of the channel, our first Christmas. That video might not be very good, but the movie is. And Petrie did Moon of the Wolf, which I reviewed for a Halloween one year. He also directed another film we've talked about, The Neptune Factor, where giant guppies threaten a research sub on a rescue mission. He also helmed a remake of Lassie in 1994. He did Fort Apache, The Bronx, and a sequel to Cocoon called Cocoon, The Return. I like the little touches of having the classmates at the reunion wearing photos of themselves from the yearbook, which appear to be the actors' own high school yearbook photos. That seems like a touch Petrie came up with. Over the course of the film, we get to see how lifeguarding worked at the time, and all of the subtle things involved in the job that most people never realize. You get a sense that the story was written with inside knowledge. And yeah, they probably don't have funding for any of it now. This was Ron Koslow's first screen credit as a writer, and while he didn't have a lot of screen credits, he did help create one of my favorite shows from back in the day, Beauty and the Beast, which starred Ron Perlman, Linda Hamilton, and Commissioner Simmons himself, Roy Dotrice. That was a great show until the end of the second season. Ugh, hated how they ended that. Ugh. Now me, I wouldn't make a very good lifeguard. No. I mean, I'd be too busy watching the cute chicks in bikinis to pay any attention to some guy drowning. What? What? You're drowning? Well, you shouldn't have swum out that far. Don't bother me. Hey, check out that sexy chick. Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm not a great swimmer. I can dog paddle a little bit, but yeah, I wouldn't make a great lifeguard. Best leave that to the professionals. I admit, I've always liked this one. The tone of it, the vibe it gives off, it's kind of different. It makes you think, and you wouldn't see this being made today. It's too grown up for the modern audience. They want to stay children forever, with no responsibilities to face. In this film, you can see why Elliott is so well regarded. He's awesome as Rick. Sam Elliott owns this character, and we get a lot of insight into him. It's a fascinating turn by Elliott. And his mustache. Parker Stevenson is also interesting as the mentee lifeguard, learning the ropes. Wendy is interesting. She's totally believable as a starry-eyed kid, and I liked her personality. Machine Gun is funny, and there's a good representation of the other types of people who you might have seen at the beach back in the day. And did I mention the sexy chicks in bikinis? But anyway, aside from that, I'm giving Lifeguard 2 3/4 paws up. Definitely well worth a watch. You take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.